Hello and welcome everybody back to the League of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Kebablord here, and we are playing Stronghold Crusader again. So, since we raffle stomped the rat last time with very cheap means, it's time to get to the snake, the second enemy, and way stronger than the rat, by the way. Still quite cheap, but using a good mixture of different troops, and yeah, that is going to be very interesting. Also, we will have the first Arabian troops in here. So, one of the main differences between the snake and the rat is that the snake is also using fire and siege engines. Now, the thing with siege engines is that they outrange most, well, not only most, they outrange most units. So we have to have different means for that, and now many of you might be thinking, at least those who already know the snake well, you don't really have a defense for that, you have to do that manually, because the snake does not build any defensive siege engines. Ha! I changed that, and you will see. So, in general, I wanted to make sure that most AIs that use siege engines also have at least some capability to defend themselves against them. And that is why I gave the snake also towers with ballistae. But that is a different thing. You will see. So, for now, we need, of course, more building materials. Now that we have placed our basics and have now some food stored. And, yeah, building materials are now there. And we need, of course, once more a few apple orchards. Unfortunately, the snake doesn't use any other means. Yeah, there we can see it. Oh, it's using my interpretation of the iconic snake shape. That is going to be beautiful. Also, the snake has way stronger defensive capabilities. Something that they should never be underestimated. To make it short, the snake simply uses a shit ton of archers. So, here we have the barracks, here we have the engineers guild, where we can recruit engineers that are, well, constructing engines for us, and here we can go for mercenaries who still take a peasant. For some weird reason, they are recruited among your peasants and not just come from the outside. But in return, they don't need a weapon, they just cost gold, though quite a lot of it. So, the snake has already built 4 houses. If I'm not mistaken, the snake is allowed to build 4 housing buildings. Alright, I did not build a market yet. Well, that was stupid.
Can't place that there, my lord.
Yeah, I will rearrange them. So, here comes the mercenary camp. So, 3 houses already. Oh well, let's give the snake some time to accommodate. So, we built a quarry, because we still need some stone as construction material and as a trading good later on. And again, we need to make sure that we have at least a bit of a defense quite early, otherwise the snake is simply going to set us on fire, and that is unfortunately in Stronghold not a very pleasant experience. But well, what would you expect from a fire in a desert, right? Okay, so our Fletchers have already started with their work. Also, I wanted to make sure that I'm actually closing the castle of a snake, because in many cases, actually most cases, the castles of a snake were only closed by moats, and that made them extremely vulnerable when placed on mountains, because mountains cannot have moats on them. So whenever a snake was placed there, the castle was left open, easy to attack, and that is something that I wanted to reduce. So the idea was that there's a strong wall, and on the other side a weak wall with a moat. So in that case the castle is always closed, and the moats are still being used. Yeah, aside from that, the snake uses more roundish shapes than other AI lords, simply to show its nature.
We await orders. Weapons needed, sire.
Oh.
Archers, ready.
Okay then. So 1, 2, 3,
Can't place that there, my lord.
4. Just in case we want a little bit more food. And there we can see already slaves being recruited. The snake will now send them out to attack us. I'm not a huge fan of that.
Your grace. How can we help? Manning siege equipment. My bow is yours. We are on our way.
I always understand my boy is yours instead of my bow is yours, and that sounds so wrong. Like that dude is selling off his child. And as we can see, towers placed so close to each other cause visual glitches. I'm not a huge fan of that. So I will also have to get rid of the other tower. And yes, I know I could have saved those engineers by simply letting them leave the siege engine before reducing the tower to rubble, but I did not feel like it. Oh, the castle is slowly taking shape. Oh, by the way, how many houses does the snake now use? Oh, 5 actually. So, I was a bit wrong with my 4 houses. That gives us, of course, a little bit more freedom. So, archers are still going to be our most valuable tool.
We await orders. Weapons needed, sire.
Yeah, now the castle of the snake is complete. As you can see, there's a ballistae, and there's also one a ballista. Yeah, ballistae was...
Me lord? Leaving now!
Was the plural, multiple entities. So, and ballistas are super effective in the game, so I'm not going to build more ballistas than the enemy.
Manning siege equipment. We await orders. Weapons needed, sire.
Because otherwise it will simply not be comparable anymore in regards of defensive capabilities. Yeah, that is now the entire snake castle. Looking nice, right?
We are under attack.
Still trying to the nature of a snake, a little bit more optimized. It's actually the weakest castle in regards of weapons production. And still it has more than the standard snake castle, so yeah, a heavy improvement.
Weapons needed, sire.
One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Placing a few walls with more towers. To make sure that not a single slave gets behind us.
Orders. We are on our way. We await orders. Weapons needed, sire. We await orders. Yes. You can count on us.
No, no gold anymore.
It's time to die.
And there we can see already the snake uses ladders, Arabine archers and catapults.
A message from the snake.
And without the 2 ballistas, the catapult might actually have caused a lot of damage. So, time to use the rest of the peasants that we can use for increasing our economy a little bit further. And stone is quite a valid tool to raise a medium amount of money really quick. Though it really, well, takes up a lot of space in the stockpile in the end. So one should not overdo it with the stone, otherwise you will always have to manually trade, because unfortunately the game does not have an auto trade feature, like for example Anno 1800, where you can simply sell everything that is off. They introduced it with Stronghold Legends, but did not think to also implement it for Stronghold Crusader HD.
Needed, sire. Recruits needed, sire. Recruits needed, sire.
You can count on us.
Needed, sire. Recruits needed, sire.
The game is still looking so charming. I mean, it is not really impressive from a technical standpoint, but it did not lose its charm. That is something that you can always say. There's always something moving in the castle, since everyone is simulated. You always know what's going on, everything is easy to read. Well, aside maybe from weapons productions, because their roofs are sometimes a bit too similar.
We await orders.
Good, so the next band of archers.
Leaving? No. We await orders.
Where are we going?
And another one for the other side. Now we can go to recruiting an attack force. I personally don't like using catapults because you have to manually add stone as ammunition to them, and it simply causes way too much micromanagement. I'm in general not a very huge micromanagement fan. That is why I'm totally not compatible to games like Company of Heroes, so they are really impressively made. Oh no. The less micromanagement, the better. So that is why I have fun with Supreme Commander, especially the second installment, because it, well, requires less micromanagement than the first one.
You can count on us.
We await orders.
You can count on us.
We await orders. Needed, sire.
So, Snake, what are you doing? I'm waiting for your next big attack wave. Oh yeah, also I made the Snake a little bit more stronger in regards of units, because it's a swarm enemy, relatively quickly sending like 200 units. Ah, there comes the next attack. And again, the Snake gets more dangerous with, well, with a few perks like gardens and so on, when people actually want to fight for their home.
A message from the snake.
Okay, we need to focus out the catapult. Yeah, a few towers have been damaged, but I can repair them easily.
Not enough goods. We await orders.
So, time to forward time a little bit, to fast forward time, because otherwise we are simply waiting for way too long. Okay, apparently the Snake has a catapult on the wall. For some weird reason, that can sometimes happen due to bugs.
We await orders.
And usually the Snake would from time to time send a catapult for interrupting my economy and so on, but I guess that is not possible because there is one such catapult on the wall, it cannot move down. And therefore the Snake cannot
We await
produce any additional catapults for interruption attacks.
Count on us.
Because the AI works on several different levels. You have at one, of course, the siege level, with the major attacks that are scaling up over time. And then there are the patrols for defensive measures. As you can see here, the Snake chooses a shit ton of archers for defensive patrols. And then there are the interruption units, like for example these slaves trying to set my buildings on fire, or the interruption catapults coming from time to time. So when the AI is blocked on one of these levels, the other levels still work. Which is something good.
You can count on us.
And who I really like as an enemy is Emir Omar, because, well, his interruption unit,
Message from the snake.
he sends swarms. Oh, the enemy attacked us.
You can count on us.
Guess it was nothing
It's a
major.
rout.
So the snake has 170 people, we have 500. I guess we will go to 600 or 700 before
You
attacking,
can count on us.
just to make sure.
Weapons needed,
Because
sire.
you see how many archers the snakes has on his towers. That is quite a lot, especially with a defensive boon, and they are only taking half damage up there.
Count on us.
Weapons needed, sire.
You can count.
We await orders.
You can count.
We await
You
orders.
can count on us.
Oh well. Oh, more stone to sell. Of course I could also just build a few gardens before attacking the enemy, but well,
Orders.
I don't really feel like it. Because that also reduces the speed of my economy. So that is also something that I did with the snake. Due to the gardens and so on, the snake attacks in theory a bit slower.
Orders.
But since some of the marching routes have been optimized,
You can count on us.
the malice should not be that strong.
Sire. We await orders.
And yeah, but in return attacks harder.
You can count on us.
So the snake is at 250 people, 250 soldiers.
Await orders.
So in the original game, we would have already reached a point where the attacks cannot increase in size. That would be it.
A message from the snake. You can count on us.
Well, that was a bit very easy to fend off.
It's a rout. Always ready.
So we have over 300 archers, and that must be good for something.
Instructions.
Like for example, killing people. So... yeah, that's looking good as a siege force.
We await orders.
Tell us what to do. A message from the snake.
Archers, ready.
A message from the snake.
So as you can see, we already lost 150 archers.
Slice of cake. Tell us what to do. This'll be easy. You
With micromanagement, of course, more units would have survived, but...
from the snake.
oh well, it's over now.
A message from the snake.
I wanted only to be your ally. Really, I did.
Yeah, and that was the snake.
The granary is full, my lord.
As always, I hope you enjoyed it. I mean, we can see the statistics. We killed over 1,000 units this time, so even more than before. We made less money than the snake. Produced nearly the exact amount of food. Oh well, we produced a lot more stone. Wait, weapons produced only 47? That doesn't seem right. Did the snake simply buy that many weapons? Huh. Interesting. Oh well, yeah. As always, if you liked it, then of course a thumbs up would be a really nice feedback. If you have any suggestions, feedback, or any special wishes, then just type it down in the comments. I will make sure to read it all. Feedback to the Castle of the Snake is of course always appreciated. And of course there also exist other castles for the Snake. For each enemy there are up to 8 castles, so yeah. During the tournament expect also to see other variations. And yeah, if you want to discuss with me or the community directly, feel free to join our community Discord. You will find an invitation link in the video description down below. And yeah, if you want to get notified when the next upload happens, then make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, that notifications are activated. And with that, I say goodbye and see you next time. Bye bye.